Yes, good morning everyone. Yeah, can you see me? And can you hear me? If I am not audible, give me a minute. Yeah, can you hear me? If my voice is audible to you, I think I am audible. Just put it in the chat box if I am audible. Yes, I got responses. Thank you so much. And well, meeting after a long time. In the meanwhile, you had your examination, and most of you people have done well. There was, I think, not much of difficulty for you to handle that paper. And as we had planned and as we had prepared, I think in most areas it had worked out. So generally, examinations are such only wherein there is something which we feel is unimportant and sometimes is asked as important one. So as an attitude for a student, yours I think approach was quite appropriate. You had given enough time and I think enough analysis of everything, and accordingly you have attempted that test of yours, and so I think you have done quite well. Next thing, I think there was only a bit of doubt about a particular question, and that question, of course, is ambiguous. And I was asked by one of the students, and I discussed with my colleagues too, and they said, "Yeah, it has some kind of ambiguity." Well, let me tell you, okay, now since it was already asked in the examination, so nothing much can be done about it. So for your knowledge, let me tell you that question was a bit ambiguous. I don't have that script with me. That question was something about the ball and what is the memory that whether he can buy with money or something like that was the question. Well, you don't have to worry much about it. We were planning to delete that question, but because there are many technical issues, so whatever the data has already come, so that cannot be changed because it is all online created test. So I think for that particular point of view, you just don't think much, and you just have to understand you know it correctly. And those who put me one query, I think the student was quite correct about it, and I appreciate the watchful way of handling the test. Now coming on to the new chapter that we are going to begin today is the making of a scientist. Your supplementary reader, this one, Footprints Without Feet. From this book we are going to take up this chapter. It is chapter number 6 and page number 32. I hope all of you must have got your textbooks with you. Now as we had followed the procedure of going through each line so that the explanation is given to you more in detail, the same pattern again we are going to follow, because we believe we don't know, when the times are going to change, when are you going to come to the school or what, but let it be just like the regular class as it is in the classroom. We teach certain things to you and try to bring all the ideas home to you by going through each line. Just that way we are going to just see the chapter. Now open up your book, page number 32, the making of a scientist, and in the box on the right hand side some information is given. I am going to read out that information first of all. Richard Ebright has received the Serial Scholar Award and the Sharing Plough Award for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. So it is about, I think now the idea is a bit clear for you. So this whole extract or the whole lesson may be something about this man, Richard Ebright, who had become known. I think one thing you can always remember, something that is distinct, something that is significant, something that becomes prominent, becomes the focus of people on which people generally write, because something which is insignificant, on such things, hardly people, bother about. Now this man must have, achieved something great in his life, something like the awards, 2 awards, named over here. Now if it is for, objective type examination, so name of the awards can be asked, isn't it? Accordingly you frame your mind or train your mind accordingly. Whatever the information comes, that particular information you always have to pay attention to, from the point of view of objective type of, examination. Well, the same stuff if you are putting for descriptive type exam, it's making your answer rich. Rich in the sense the examiner understands that you know what is there in the text. So you have gone through the text, you are thorough with the text, and your knowledge about that particular chapter is complete. That gives the kind of, impression to the examiner. So from both the examination point of view, if you just see, so I think this kind of information becomes important, because maybe most people would not be writing, but if you write such information, it gives a special weightage to your answer. So about Richard Ebride, I started telling you, you have to create a name, you have to create your space in the world, you have to make your presence, felt to the world. It is only then people, flock to you, they run to you, they approach you, they want to know about you. Or else you have, passed all your life in, solemnity, I mean to say, in our loneliness, you just pass your life, or without any recognition it goes. So who bothers about you? You tell me, no one. So I think the lesson for all of us, if I read just this part of, the text, so I think we all must understand one important thing. For whom is the interview? For whom those interviews are meant, maybe on the news channels, maybe for, the print media, or for writing such kind of articles. It is only for them, those who, earn some name and fame in the world. So by earning the name and fame, there are other ways to, but we don't have to resort to any wrong means. It's only the positive and affirmative thing. Well, so his contribution in the field of biochemistry and molecular biology must have been extraordinary, and so he had won such awards. And it was his fascination for butterflies that opened the world of science to him. I wish all of you pay attention to this important line. Here the writer has said it is his fascination. Fascination is attraction. His attractions, towards butterflies gave him an opportunity, or opened avenue for him, that he turned out to be a scientist. That is, the world of science was open to somebody. Well, all of you are students of science, and in the days to come you are again going to take such courses wherein you are going to definitely study science. Or even if you are changing your field after 10th standard, I believe that you have studied basic science by 10th standard. What happens, what is my opinion, and what does society believe that much change must come is, by studying science you should have scientific temperament. What is that? Scientific temperament, makes you question certain things. Scientific temperament makes you inquisitive, curious about certain things, and this kind of curiosity, for that you want to satisfy all your doubts, and you go in search of knowledge to the extent that you want facts for certain things. And if certain information is without the basis of facts, it is unscientific. And if it is unscientific, then it is only a myth, it is only a story, it is only a created thing, but it does not have any scientific truth in it. I feel if I had been a student of science, more things would have been known to me. I have made myself, go more in the scientific approach. Well, it took me a lot of time. I also practiced certain traditions and customs, and followed certain kind of, you can say, the rules and norms which the society told, which the elderly members and family members went on telling. But gradually, when I developed my analytical kind of approach towards certain things, I gave up certain things for which there was no meaning. Just like any student, if he picks up a particular pen in the examination and with that pen gets a good mark, then what that student believes, that even if that pen becomes quite old, he or she would try to carry the same pen in the examination, because by that he or she must have brought good luck. It's nothing like that. It is only a myth. It is only a belief. There is no science in it. It is only something in a belief, in a kind of magical sort of activity. But believe me, if you have your knowledge, may it be pen of any company, may it be, see, of course, quality will have to see, but not that only that particular pen can fetch you your good luck. It's not so. It's only your hard work. So by that hard work only you have your destiny to shape. Here we have the pattern of students appearing for board examination only in school uniform, whereas when I was a student, we had the freedom to wear even the civil dresses. So I had found most of my friends, those who wore one particular dress on a first day of the examination, and their paper had been excellent. So all the papers, for all the paper, the same dress was used. What is this? Is it not superstition? Is it not something unscientific? Yes. So what I believe is, by this we should be able to have that scientific temperament. In everything we must try to see, we must try to dig out if there is some kind of science, and if it is not, we should not have much of reluctance to reject it. I hope my message reaches you all, and all of you develop that scientific temperament. It is required. It is in our country very, very much required. Okay? Well, if you had been there in the class, I would have narrated to you one incident, that I will not do it here. Anyways, now coming on to the text, and read and find out. So, how did a book become a turning point in Richard Abright's life? That we are going to find it out over here. And how did his mother help him? Let me tell you the contribution of people that we come across all our lives. It is tremendous. It is the more you meet people, and the more number of people, variety of people. You don't have to just count on how many good people you met in life. I mean to say, you meet any people. The good also teach you, and the bad also teach you the same way. I mean to say, there is some kind of learning. It actually takes place. You as meet some vicious or wicked kind of people, you do understand, hey, this is a kind of wicked nature, and this is what you got to do when you have to handle, or when you have got to deal with certain kind of this kind of people. And unlike this, when you come across any such good personality, any such reputed person, then you do understand how somebody must have reached that particular height, and what might have made a particular person climb such glory in life. So that also do you understand. Now, what I mean to say, irrespective of the kind of people, the more you meet people, the more knowledge of yours regarding practical life or real life, it enhances. Similarly, the kind of environment do we have at home, that is great in contributing or shaping our mindset at first level. I mean to say, first level is what? As long as you just believe and obey all the words of the members of the family, wherein your own logic doesn't work much. That is first stage. The second stage is when you become independent. As I think this stage comes when you become the breadwinner of the family, or you start taking some employment. It is then you become important there in the family. That is, I am talking about the Indian setup of families. And then if you put anything there in a discussion there in the family, your words are considered. So what I have understood by this, unless we have economical strength, nobody pays attention to us. Even if you might have been brainy, even if your ideas might be very relevant for a particular thing to buy at home, or for buying a particular technological thing or a modern gadget you want to buy, but maybe your ideas would be suppressed by the elderly members. They might say, you are still so small fellow, by all that, but they might not understand much about, while you might know much about it, still your presence will not be accepted. Your ideas would not be entertained so much. I don't say everywhere it is the same thing, but in general case it happens. So what you will have to do, you will have to wait for becoming becoming an employee somewhere. As you start your own earning, your individuality in the Indian context is accepted. So what happens, the kind of environment actually do we live in? maybe surrounded by the members of the family. Then we come out of home, then school is one place. If you go after school, beyond that it is the degree college that you go in, and the kind of locality that we live in, may it is a small place, may it be a big city. Accordingly, all those things have, their contribution. Now, important thing. So what happens? So those impressions, they sometimes ignite something in us, and they give us a kind of, particular idea to us. There was one WhatsApp group, on one WhatsApp, one message was, floating. That message showed that mother, father and a small child is taken to a place wherein they happen to show that child, one fellow who is, sweeping one street. The parents, in one comment, they say, if you do not study, you will also have to do the same work. While the same picture and in the same kind of context, another comment is given over there, wherein it is written, if you study, you can make difference in the lives of people like this. Now you see, the same thing is there, but the outlook, but your approach, that changed everything. In the one, you are made to feel, a bit negative. This is a negative kind of situation. You can do only for yourself, whatever you do if you study. And the other one says, not only your life would be changed, but also you can make difference in the lives of other people. This is what I mean to say. This is what I want, to convey to you people. If you remain observant, if you remain, quite vigilant about, certain things that happened around you people, and when you reflect at certain things and you find certain things are, unscientific, and whereas other things you find they are scientific. So scientific and unscientific, and then you will have to give prominence to one particular thing. So you will have to understand which things are important for you, which things are contributory in your life, which things are actually, put with logic and reason, and that is what the scientific world is. That is what science actually demands. And unlike this, when happens, then what for a long time we have been struggling to get rid of various problems of our country, we will still go on, facing all of them. So by education, it does not mean only reading the text and knowing only the chapter. Beyond that, reflection. We have to give our time to pondering, to thinking, and then it shapes our, complete outlook, and that is very much reflected later on there in the personality. So when I read the first part of, the chapter, after that, the box which was there, by that what I wanted to tell you, in order to do something, to be known, you have to do something extraordinary, and those extraordinary things do come. Maybe they may just remain only to a small group of people, doesn't matter, but they are extraordinary. Therein a great contribution of yours is seen, and that gives you enough of contentment. Well, now I am reading the chapter, starting with line 1. At the age of 22, a former Scout of the Year excited the scientific world with a new theory on how cells work. Richard S. Albright and his college roommate explained the theory in an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Well, you understand something by this. These people, including Richard Albright and his friends, they read out one article, or they had published one article in the article's name, I think it is a theory in an article, and the name of the article is Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. So they read out something, some theory they read out. How theories are made based on certain observations, based on certain research. When you undergo some research, you do understand what are the loopholes, what are the positive things, and what is the next that you want to project. You discover something. So a theory is to be put first of all, and they had projected something. At the age of 22, when all this is said, we need to understand in that context, what is that age of 22, by that, what the writer wants to convey. The writer wants to convey, it is such a young age for someone to be, known or to be accepted as a scientist. One who puts such idea or extraordinary idea can only be therefore a scientist. So at the age of 22, it's just an age wherein people only learn, where people only take only degrees. At that time when somebody comes up with such a great idea is something extraordinary. Well, I'll proceed now. I was to tell you something else. It was the first time this important scientific journal, had ever published the work of college student. I think here you understand one thing. So at the age of 22, Richard Ebright was only a college student, and for the first time in such a reputed journal, a student's work was recognized. A student work was accepted to be published in a journal. I know, as I have also published some articles there in national, international journals. So there are certain parameters, and unless you meet all those, so for knowing all those parameters, you need to know certain technicalities. From a student, you do not expect all those things at an early age, because it takes later a little bit of finer skills, little bit of refinement of skills, and it comes only when you are more devoted to the research work than to studies. But this was something different, what the writer wants to tell us. In sports, that would be like making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. For Richard Ebright, it was the first time in long string of achievements in science and other fields, and it all started with butterflies. Now, before I tell you this one, at the bottom of this page, there is some information given. Let us read it out. A home run is the game of baseball in which is when the batter, that is the batsman, scores a run after running safely around all bases and back to the home plate without stopping. A ball hit out of the playing field is also called a home run. Getting a paper published at the age of 15 is a scientific journal. In a scientific journal is here compared to scoring a home run while batting for the first time. I think when you want to understand why the writer must have said in sports this happens, and then he again talks about Richard Ebright. So what we can understand is, like for the first timer, someone who begins for a maiden time, it is called, any work, it is never so easy. That's why those who are the openers there in the cricket, they are the most crucial players, because they face the first ball, because there is pressure of the team, the pressure of performance, the pressure of giving a good start to the team. All those pressures are there, and in the you can say, having loaded with all that pressure, when your opener faces the ball, it's never so easy for such a person. Now here at the age of 22, Richard Ebright, publishing his article, which is more scientific in nature, and doing so is in itself is a great kind of activity, and so it is compared to that sports of baseball, and Richard Ebright as if done somewhat like the same way. Now, for Richard Ebright, it was the first in a long string of achievements in science and other fields, and it all started with butterflies. I wanted to comment on this last part of the line. It all started with butterflies. See, we do not know from where someone, I won't even just say only a student, someone, any person can be, gets a particular idea. What can be that source is not known to anyone. It can be just a chat, it can be just you can say a gossip, it can be just looking around the things, and from there comes a particular idea, and how that idea can become a very big idea, no one knows. Like you say, when I was also a child, so the time butterflies would always catch our attentions. Some 2 to 3 days before, I was going to buy bread in the morning, somewhat like 10 o'clock or so, And when I started moving from Anupratap towards our school, I found so many butterflies coming from, the trees from both the ends, from the right and from the left, wherever the trees were there, from both the ends, many butterflies were coming. And that time, I started feeling now it is time of the winter to begin. This was my interpretation. Well, I remembered my childhood, and I remembered that, okay, how would I catch, these butterflies? But for me, it was only a game. It was only a sports, just catching them, putting a thread at the end of something of the butterfly, one part of their body. I would, tie a thread and would make the butterfly fly, and it would be very much there under my control. That was my play. Later on, I realized that it was such a, you can say, violent act of mine for such delicate creatures like butterflies. Well, for the writer, what it turned out to be, for me and for many, children like me, it must have been just a kind of sports. It must have been just a kind of time pass, you can say, kind of activity. How they would just enjoy or how they would derive fun out of it. But for Ebride, it turned out to be something from where it, this kind of activity turned him or put him to a kind of research, and that fetched him such great name and reputation. That is what I mean to say. Anything that goes through your eye, anything that goes through your reading, anything that catches your attention can inspire you. How it happens and why it happens. If all this kind of question, they trouble your mind, they make you, go into the process of learning. This is the scientific approach. Well, when we talk about this writer, talk about our main character, that is Richard Ebride, on whom is this chapter written. So what do we understand? Richard Ebride got some idea, or you can say one ordinary activity of his, one routine activity of his, which was maybe at that time only for the sake of fun he might be doing, that ignited something in his mind, that gave him the spark, that gave him the idea, and then he started on his work. See, I have seen one or two friends of mine who were a little different, like a friend of mine who has composed, many songs and has given music in various, you can say, dramas, not in, of course, movies, but in dramas, a lot of them. He got songs sung through Alka Yagnik, Udit Narayan, Shreya Ghoshal, and many such people. So I have seen his childhood, I have seen his, youth age. He would always be lost in his thought. When we studied in the same college, he was my junior, and he would be, just by the wall like this, and would be humming some tune, would be closing his eyes. He would not bother, who would cross him, who would, talk to him or not. If somebody talked to him, he would just break his concentration and would have a word with him. But what I have noticed, these are the kind of people who have their mind, who have their, heart and soul involved in something. And by that they create their name, their identity, and their world becomes only that. Well, for you and me, probably singing must be just a kind of bathroom show. But for him, it became an activity of lifetime. So something might have inspired him in life, and it turned out to be life-changing kind of incident for him. It happens. You happen to visit a place. Maybe you go to the museum, and you see the people in our past, our ancestors, how strong and gigantic they were. If you see their armor, something to shield their body, that is called armor, and their weapons, do you see, they were so heavy. And then we compare ourselves, how weak are we, compared to them. Then we go to their past, how they might have created those big castles at that time, when they did not have crane, when they did not have the modern machinery. So don't we wonder at certain kind of things? Yes, we do. And then we talk about the marvels of science and what next can be done, what extraordinary thing can be done. Once I had been to Vashi, there was one mall, I think it is still there, Ragulila is a big mall. Inside it's a very big hollow, and they have made a structure, towards the roof, just like that of the spider's web. So looking at that such huge hollow space and such a big structure, I was wonderstruck how it was created in the modern time. So it's not that in the past it was not there, but something might have struck someone. Then now you go to Karapur Fish Aquarium in Mumbai. Now it is in at Nariman Point. As you enter, above you also there is a kind of structure wherein many fishes are there. And as you go more inside, more fishes, as if you are entering a kind of tunnel, such kind of field you are going to get. I mean to say, when you see something such wonderful kind of thing, when you get get in touch with some kind of people who tell you such kind of stories, which are real stories, like one movie was there. Well, the name of the movie is not quite good to sound it. It is Sand Ki Aak. So, but it is based on real story. When you come across, this kind of real stories, and wherein in the context of these people, it is hardly any possibility. They cannot even think of anything great to do because they are bound everywhere, and still they have created such a name, and as they created history, then we also feel we can also do something. I feel every child is able to do something extraordinary. Maybe somebody in the classroom appearing to be so dull, so lazy, or must not be contributing there in the class, but it is only time's test. As the time passes, as the time it takes its course, the qualities of a person would be revealed to us. I think the example we already have of Vanda. Vanda would not talk much in the class. Vanda would not get involved in any kind of discussion. Vanda would not show off her skills. It's only once she exhibited all her skills, and everyone had to recognize, not only the teacher but even Peggy and Maddie, both of them had to recognize, yeah, Vanda was an excellent dress designer. So we therefore should not come to a conclusion at an early age of about someone or someone's ability, that one is capable of only this much. It is never so. You give an opportunity and you see how the miracles do take place. They do. You just imagine your time when you had entered primary. Do you know, or did you ever think that the amount of language you have, or the amount of knowledge of science, mathematics do you have at this moment you had when you were there in the primary? Not at all. So how the change might have come? It came with the passage of time. And I think more patience is also required if you want to do something extraordinary. So there are many hurdles, there are many obstacles, and if you lose your heart, then everything is lost. So something when it might be there that might have ignited you. There was a student of mine, her name is Revati Kulkarni, and once I asked her what profession she would like to take up. So she narrated to me one story. She didn't give me the answer, quite rapidly. She narrated me to a story. She said, in my neighborhood there is a small child, such a nice fellow, just hardly 1 year of age. And I had been to, she said she had been to their house in the afternoon, and all the family members were watching TV. And she felt so sorry. She felt it's such a beautiful, entertainment is there in their home, and they were watching the TV. She took the child home. She, had a nice time with the child, and then she decided she would take up a course, or she would take up the profession wherein she is going to teach parent how to do the parenting. You see the idea. How the idea came? It is such an ordinary kind of thing. In after every 2 or 3 houses, you will find small kids. They are always there in their own world, and the parents are also busy. They are taking the most of the things of the child, just like that only. They are the routine for the child. But you see how the idea came for that student of mine. She felt it is a need of the time that the parents also do not know how to look after their children. What is the best time for them, that they do not know, and that profession she wanted to. I don't know by now whether she has taken, well, every teacher's day or WhatsApp message comes to me and she is doing quite so well, but I don't know whether she has taken it up, but I think it would be there in her mind and someday she might choose it as a profession. Therefore I believe, and therefore I think you all must believe, you first of all remain very observant, very you can say broad in your outlook. You look around, just don't see one particular thing, you can also see beyond and think beyond. And if this kind of things happen, the miracles like Richard Bright had created, that can be done. So it had just started, and it started with only butterflies. An only child, an only child. You people must never have used this kind of expression, and it is printed in your textbook, it is NCERT textbook, you have to believe that it is correct. So how it is that that you just apply all your knowledge of articles. The word before child is only, O is the sound, and O is a vowel sound, and after only there is one word called noun. So for noun is that article, but this article will take shape only based on the word in front of it. So the word in front of it begins with only, it is not only. Only, there are people who pronounce this word in some part of our country, but it is, if you mispronounce it, then you are not going to get that article right. Its right pronunciation is only. So your vowel sounds are A, E, I, O, U, not even U. And you have studied only 5, but this part again, that's what I mean to say. You keep your eyes just like the hawk's eyes open, and you just don't read for the sake of reading. You just grab everything, get it into your, through your eyes into your mind, and you learn those things. Automatically, you will find after some period of time, your knowledge of English is superb. You can amaze people all around you when you speak of the English language. So this will all happen. This you pay attention to. An only child, Ebride grew up north of Reading, Pennsylvania. There wasn't much I could do there, he said. And he talks about studying at a place, and he says in the school he could not do much. He was the only child of his parent. Okay? And I certainly couldn't play football or baseball with a team of 1. But there was one thing I could do, collect things. Now you see his limitation. His limitation was that he was not good at studies, and just he was ordinary, you can say mediocre kind of student. And he says in sports also he was not so good. When it came for something like football, he was not good. When it came for baseball, he was again must be just ordinary or mediocre. But he says one thing, that I could do something quite good, and that is collecting things. Now collecting things can be philately, like you collect the stamps. You have the habit of collecting coins. You can have the habit of collecting currency. You can have the habit of collecting something that you find is extraordinary. So that may turn out to be a different thing, a significant thing, which is not ordinary, which is not common to everyone, and he feels that he was able to do something different. And how the doing different thing gave him a different world. Okay. I think for today, with the background to the story, I have taken today's class just like a class. Just like a class, I mean just like a physical classroom. And I want you to be just like that only. I may take more time to explain this one too, and we have plenty of time. You don't have to worry much about it. Let us understand everything and more in detail. Okay. So for today, I think enough, and we'll continue with the chapter in the next class. Bye-bye.